Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Sahib Noor and welcome to another lecture of electromagnetic field theory. In this lecture, we will cover topics from chapter number 2. The title name of the chapter is Vector Analysis, and this is fourth lecture of the course. Our main topics will be to study the specific coordinates like Cartesian coordinates. In previous lecture we discussed the generalized coordinates, and now in this lecture we will study the specific coordinates. The first topic will be the Cartesian or the rectangular coordinates, and then we will study the cylindrical coordinates, and the spherical coordinates will be the last topic of this lecture. In the adjacent figure we have three-dimensional space which is specified by the three perpendicular axes, x-axis, y-axis and z-axis, and in this space we have a point which is the intersection of three planes. We have three planes in the figure. One plane is parallel to the x-axis. It means that in the blue plane the value of x is fixed, which is taken as x1. So this blue plane is parallel plane to the x-axis, and we have another plane, the green plane, and on which the value of y is kept fixed, and this plane is parallel to the y-axis, and the value of y or this plane is everywhere y1. And we have another plane which is parallel to the z-axis, and the value of z is fixed on this plane. So the value of z at that plane, the red plane, the value is taken as z1. So these planes are intersecting each other, and the common point of these three planes is here P. So we have a position vector OP. The O is the origin where all the values of x, y, z equal to 0, and at that point the value of x is x1, the value of y is y1, and the value of z is z1. And we have three perpendicular direction. P is the intersection point of three planes. As I discussed that one plane is parallel to x-axis, the value of x is at that point is x1, the value of y at that point is y1, and the value of z at that point is z1. So we have a vector which is represented by OP from the origin. So the vector form of this position vector will be ax x1 plus ay y1 plus az z1. Here ax, ay and az are the unit vector in the Cartesian coordinate or unit vector in the rectangular coordinate system. In some book these unit vectors will be represented by I, j and k, and the value of x at the given figure is x1, and the value of y is y1, and the value of z is z1. We can find the magnitude of this vector by taking the square root of x1, y1 and z1 and add them, and we will put an under the root. And we can also find the direction of the position vector by using the formula OP unit vector is equal to OP vector divided by OP magnitude. Now in this slide we will discuss the product of vectors in Cartesian coordinates. First we will study the dot product of unit vectors in the Cartesian coordinate. As in previous slide we have seen from the figure that the space is formed by three mutually perpendicular axes, and each axis has their corresponding unit vectors like ax, ay and az. So their unit vectors will follow the rules like when similar unit vectors are multiplied, the answer will be 1, and when different unit vectors are multiplied in dot operation, the answer will be equal to 0. Like ax and ay will give us 1, and if ax multiply with ay or ax multiply with az, the answer will be 0. So now we have combining these two rules in a single equation. Like we can write ax dot ai dot aj is equal to 1 when I and j are equal, and I and j can take values from the set x, y, z. So if I is equal representing x and j representing x, so then ax into ax will be equal to 1, and if I and j representing different index from of the set, so at that case the answer will be 0. And we can write the dot product of any two general vectors is, so let we have two vectors a and b, and these vectors has three components each. Like a has three components given as ax plus ay az, and b has three component as well, ax bx plus ay by, and az bz. So the dot product is simply a dot b will be equal to the element of the first vector dot element of the second vector. Now each element of a will multiply each element of b. So in this case we have 9 components of the dot product of a and b, but out of 9, 6 will cancel following the above rule, and we will have remaining with the 3 components of the dot product. So a dot b is equal to ax bx plus ay by plus az bz. Now in this slide we will discuss the cross product of vectors, but first we will discuss the cross product for unit vectors. Now we have 3 base unit vector in the Cartesian components, which are ax, ay, and az, and these will follow the rule for the cross product. The product of two similar vectors will give us 0, and the product of two different vectors will follow the right hand rule. So if we multiply ax with the ay in cross operation, we will use right hand, and we will stretch our fingers of the right hand toward the x-axis and rotate it toward the y-axis, and the thumb will show the resultant. So the resultant of a x cross ay is equal to az, and if we interchange ay with ax, the answer will be the same az with a negative sign, as cross product is anti-commutative. And the cross product of any two general vectors a and b, so we have two vectors a and b, and each vector has 3 components, and their cross product will be written as a cross b equal to the element of the first vector, then we have a cross in between a and b, so we put cross, and then the element of vector b. In this multiplication, each term of a will multiply with each term of b, so the total number of elements will be 9, but when we follow the rules which we have defined here, so out of 9, 3 will be cancelled, because we have 3 terms which contain ax cross ax, ay cross ay, and az cross az. So we will put 0 for these terms, and 3 elements will be cancelled, and we will remaining with a 6. So there will be 2 components of z, one with a positive, one with a negative sign. Similarly, 2 components of x, one with positive, one with negative, and 2 components of ay with a positive and negative respectively. So their cross product will give us the answer like a cross b is equal to ay bz minus az by into ax. So this is the two components of ax. One is with negative sign, the other is with a positive sign. Similarly, ay has a two components and az has a two component. This this expression can be obtained by the determinant method as well. If we write a cross b in the determinant form, so we will have as b and a has three components each, so we will construct a 3 cross 3 matrix in which the first row is for the base unit vector. So we will write ax, ay and az. In the second row we will write the element of vector a, which is ax, ay and az, and in the third component we will write the element of the second vector, which is bx, by and bz. So if we expand this matrix from the first row, we will have a similar result which we obtain here by ordinary multiplication and follow the right hand rule. After discussing the product of vectors, now we will discuss the length and area elements in the Cartesian coordinates. So we will take u1, u2 and u3 equals to x, y, z. The differential length elements in the generalized coordinate is given by dl is equal to au1 h1 du1 plus au2 h2 du2 plus au3 h3 du3. So as the elements of the left hand side representing the length, so each terms on the right hand side must give us a length dimensional quantity. So here the h represent the metric coefficient which compensate the dimension of the generalized coordinates. So all generalized coordinates are not of the length dimension, but here as u representing x, then du1 represent dx, which is the length dimensional quantity. So in this case h1 equal to 1. Similarly u2 equal to y and du2 equal to dy, which is again length, so h2 will also equal to 1. And the third component u3 represent the z element and du3 will equal to dz. So in this case all the generalized coordinate represent a length dimension, so h1, h2 and h3 will equal to 1 in case of the rectangular coordinates or in the Cartesian coordinates. So all the metric coefficient will equal to 1. So our final length element will be like ax dx plus ay dy plus az dz. So if we are discussing a plane, then the length element will have two components, one will be cancelled, and if we talk about a specific axis which is one dimension, then two element of this length element will be cancelled. Now area can be constructed by the multiplication of two sides of a space. The surface which is parallel to the x-axis, and this plane is made by two vectors. One vector is along the y-axis, one vector is along the z-axis. When these two vectors are multiplied, we will have dz, dy and ay cross az, and we will apply the right hand rule. We studied this relation in our previous slides. So ay and az in cross multiplication will give us ax. So our final result will be a surface which is parallel to the x-axis, and this surface is made by y and z element and the direction which is ax. Now a surface which is parallel to the y-axis must be made by x and z elements. Another surface which is parallel to the z-axis must be equal to dx, dy and az is the direction of that surface. and the differential volume element can be obtained by applying the scalar triple product on these elements. So volume is 3 dimension and we have to multiply 3 vector in such an operation that the overall result is a scalar. So we multiply the x element dot the y element cross the z element. So the ax and ay and az representing the base unit vectors in the Cartesian coordinates. So first we will perform the bracket operation, which is the cross operation, and this cross operation will apply on ay cross az, which will give us ax, and finally we will have ax dot ax, which equals to 1, and the magnitude of volume is dx, dy and dz. All the unit vectors are vanished, so the volume is a scalar quantity which is obtained by the scalar triple product. Now we will discuss a line integral of a vector field. Consider a variable force acting between 2 points and is given by F is equal to ax xy plus ay into 3x minus y square. We have to calculate the line integral, which is simply the work done, and the work done is to be found between 2 points P1 and P2 along 2 different paths, path 1 and path 2. From figure it is clear that path 1 is the inclined path, which is the direct line. You can say that this is the displacement, and path 2 is an indirect path in which we first come from P1 to A and then to P2. And we know that the work done is simply the dot product of force and the length element. So in previous slide we discussed the components of length element in 3-dimensional space, but here you see that we are calculating the work done in xy plane only. So the z component in the length element will be vanished automatically, and we have only left with the x and y components of the length element. And the other data which is shown in the figure are the points P1 representing 5 and 6, in which the value of x is 5, the value of y is 6. Similarly P2, the x and y are equal, and we can obtain the elements of point A, which is 5 and 3. And also the equation of lines, which is the blue line emerging from 0, is given as well, y equal to 3 by 2 into x. So when we put x is equal to 0, y equal to 0, and if we put x is equal to 1, the value of y will be equal to 3 by 2, and so on. So this is a linear equation, and the 3 by 2 is known as the slope of the line. And we have another line which is represented by dotted line. The slope of these two lines are same, but the second line or the dotted line, in which the value of x is 1 ahead from the value of y. So the equation of the second line can be written as y is equal to 3 by 2 x minus 1. So if we put x is equal to 0, then the y value will equal to minus 3 by 2, and if we put the value of x equal to 1, then y will equal to 0. So this equation is for the dotted line equation, and we can extract the value of 3x from here if we multiply 2 with y and shift the 1 on the other hand side. So the value of 3x will be equal to 2y plus 1. We will use these expression later in the problem. So the dot product f dot dl in the Cartesian coordinates, and we write the dl, the length element in the plane, which is dx ax plus dy ay. When it is multiplied with the force in dot operation, our final result will be xy dx plus 3x minus y square into dy, and the work done is simply the line integral of the above equation. So we can write the work done in this form, and will integrate the work done along path 1, which is p1 to p2. So we integrate our dot product from p1 to p2, which is the first path, and this is the value of f dot dl. And here the first term, which contain xy and dx, the integration with respect to x, and we have element x and y. So we will write the value of y. From the previous slide we have obtained the value of y and the value of 3x. So these term will be only pure form of x and y elements. So and then we will integrate and find the work done along path 1. Similarly, the work done along path 2, now we will integrate the work done from p1 to a, and then will calculate from a to p2, and this work done will be the work done along path 2. And now finally we have to compare the work done along path 1 and the work done along path 2. So if these work done are similar to one another, so we will say that the force which perform the work done is a conservative force. And if the work done along path 1 and along path 2 are different, if this work done is different from the work done which is calculated along path 2, then the force is said to be non-conservative. So in this example we discuss the line integral of a function. Now our second coordinate system, which is cylindrical coordinate system, and in this slide we will also discuss the limits. Although the laws of electromagnetism are invariant under these coordinate system, but if a problem is related with the cylindrical symmetry, then it is convenient to solve them in the cylindrical coordinates, and the generalized coordinate in this case will be equal to r phi z. And in cylindrical coordinate, let point P in the figure is the intersection of three planes. We have three planes: the green plane, the blue plane, and in the gray plane. Their common point is point P, which is the intersection of these three planes. This gray plane is parallel to the z-axis, or the value of z is fixed on this gray plane, and the value of phi is fixed for this blue plane, and the value of r is fixed for this green plane. And we kept the cylinder on a three-dimensional rectangular coordinate system such that the plane of the cylinder lies on the plane of xy, and the one axis, which is the z-axis, this is the common axis between the cylindrical coordinate system and in the rectangular coordinate system. u1, which represent r, it varies from 0 to infinity. R is the radius of the cylinder representing the length dimensional quantity. u2, which is equal to phi in this case, and this is known as the plane angle, and this angle varies from 0 to 2 pi. And u3, which represent the z, and z can varies from 0 to infinity or from minus infinity to plus infinity, and this is again a length dimensional quantity. Now in this slide we will study the unit vectors in the cylindrical coordinates and a vector representation in the cylindrical coordinates. So from figure it is clear that we have three base unit vectors in the cylindrical coordinate as well, which are mutually perpendicular. AR representing the direction of the radius or the radial components, Phi is the direction at which the angle varies, and Az representing the direction at which the Z component varies. So these three are mutually perpendicular vectors, and these vector will follow the right hand rule. That is, when we multiply AR with Phi in cross operation, so we will stretch our right hand fingers in the direction of R, which is the radial vector, and will rotate our finger toward the phi vector. So the thumb will represent the direction of the resultant. In this case it is equal to Az, or if we multiply A phi with Az, our answer will be Ar, and if we multiply Az and Ar in cross operation, the resultant will be A phi. So we can simply say that the mutual perpendicular base vector of a cylindrical system follows the right hand rule. And a vector can be written in the cylindrical coordinates. If the vector has three components, then the representation of vector will be like this: A, which is representing a vector, and in the cylindrical coordinate it can be written as AR plus A phi plus AZ, in which the red color is representing the base unit vector of a cylindrical system, and the A's in the black color are simply a scalar numbers. Now the length, area and volume element in the cylindrical coordinates is length in 3 dimension in the generalized coordinate is given by dl equal to au1 h1 du1 plus au2 h2 du2 plus au3 h3 du3, as our cylindrical coordinates are r, phi, z, in which the second element which representing the angle, so we must multiply a length dimension to compensate the dimension of the vector, as the left hand side of the vector is representing a length element, so all the components lies on the right hand side must give us a length dimension. So for this h1 and h3, because the first and third elements of cylindrical coordinate are the length dimension, so h1 and h3 will equal to 1, while the second components of the cylindrical coordinate representing the angle phi, so h2 in this case will equal to r, so the overall multiplication of this term will give us the length dimension. So by putting the values of u's and metric coefficient, our length dimension will be, our length element in the cylindrical coordinate will be AR dr plus A phi RD phi plus AZ dz. So if we compare this equation with the above one, so you will see that h1 and h3 equals to 1, while h2 equals to r. So this is the length element in the cylindrical coordinate, and we have three different areas in which one area is parallel to the r parameter, so this area must be made by the phi and z element, and we will have r d phi dz, and this area is in the direction of the radial component, and this is the magnitude part of that area, and this is the directional part of the area. Similarly, we have another surface in which is parallel to the phi directional, and this area must be made by r and z component. So the dr dz will representing the magnitude of the area, and this area is parallel to the phi direction. And the third surface, which is parallel to the z-axis, must be made by r and d phi elements. So this is the black representing the magnitude part and the red one representing the direction of these surfaces. And the volume, which is the three-dimensional space in the cylindrical coordinate, the volume will be equal to r dr d phi dz, and which comes from the scalar triple product of the cylindrical coordinates. So these are the length, areas and volume element in the cylindrical coordinates. Our last topic of this lecture is the spherical coordinates, and we will discuss the spherical coordinates along with their limits. If a problem is related with the spherical symmetry, then it is convenient to solve them in the spherical coordinate, and the spherical coordinates are r, theta and phi. And let P is the intersection of three surfaces as shown in the figure. We have three surfaces: the blue surface, the purple color surface and the black or the red surface, and their intersection point is taken as P, and u1, which represent r in this case, and r a radius of or a radial vector varies from 0 to infinity, and r is the length dimensional quantity. u2, which represent theta, and it is known as the half angle, which is varies from 0 to pi, and this is not of a length dimensional quantity, it is an angle. u3, which is known as the plane angle phi, and it varies from 0 to 2 pi, because if we rotate the blue plane from which makes an angle phi with x-axis, so in one complete rotation it can take 2 pi angle. And along with these parameters r, phi, z, we have three mutually perpendicular base unit vectors for the spherical system, which are representing by ar, a theta and a phi, and these perpendicular vectors will follow the right hand rules. Like if we multiply ar and a theta in cross operation, the answer will be a phi. We will stretch our right hand fingers in the direction of r and will rotate it toward the a theta, so the thumb will represent the direction of the resultant, which is in this case a phi. Or if theta is rotated toward phi, the resultant will be ar, and if a phi is rotated with the ar, the resultant will be a theta. And the dot product of a similar vector will give us 1, and the dot product of a different vector will give us 0. And a vector in the spherical coordinates, if a vector has three components, then it can be written in the spherical coordinate as a, which representing a vector, is equal to ar plus a theta plus a phi, in which the red color representing the base unit vector for a spherical system, and the black color ar, a theta, a phi are the scalar numbers. The length, area and volume elements in the spherical coordinates. In the generalized coordinate, the length element can be written as dl equal to au1 h1 du1 plus au2 h2 du2 plus au3 h3 du3, in which the h1, h2 and h3 representing the metric coefficient which will compensate the dimension of the expression is the left hand side of this expression representing a length dimension, so each term on the right hand side must give a length dimension. And for this we see that the generalized coordinate which are u1, u2, u3 in case of spherical, it will equal to r theta phi, and it is clear that the first term of the spherical coordinate representing a length dimension, so in this case the metric coefficient h1 equals to 1, while the remaining two elements of the spherical coordinate which are theta and phi respectively, in this case the metric coefficient will have a length dimension or a multiple of a length component. So h2 is equal to r in case of spherical coordinate and h3 equal to r sin theta. Putting the value of metric coefficient and u1 replaced with r, u2 replaced with theta and u3 replaced with the phi, our above expression will be dl equal to ar dr plus a theta r d theta plus a phi r sin theta d phi. And we have the differential areas and volume, like a surface which is parallel to the r component must be equal to r square sin theta d phi, and ar is the unit vector perpendicular to the plane made by theta and phi components. The second surface which is parallel to the phi direction and must be equal to r sin theta dr d phi, and the third surface which is parallel to the phi component must be equal to r dr d phi, and a phi is the perpendicular direction of the plane which is made by r and theta. The volume of the spherical surface can be obtained by multiplying three vectors in such operation that the resultant will give us a scalar quantity, and that multiplication is known as the scalar triple product. We have studied it in detail. So the volume of the spherical symmetry equal to r square sin theta dr d theta and d phi. So let's sum up what we have learned in lecture number 4. We discussed the three coordinate system, the Cartesian coordinates, which is also known as the rectangular coordinate. We have studied the cylindrical coordinate system and the spherical coordinate system, and laws of electromagnetism are invariant under these coordinate system, but if a problem which is related with the Cartesian symmetry, so it is convenient to solve it in the Cartesian coordinate rather it to solve in the cylindrical or spherical coordinates. We have also discussed the differential length and the differential area and volume elements in these coordinate system. Our next lecture will be on the conversion. We will convert cylindrical or spherical coordinate into Cartesian coordinate or converse. I hope that you will learn this lecture, and if you feel any difficulties or if you have any question, you can ask me at my email. Thanks and Allah Hafiz.